Hello, everyone. I'm here with Steve Cope, President and CEO of Silver VIPR. We're doing the backstage interviews for the Silver Investor Forum. Steve, thanks for your time to dig a little deeper on Silver VIPR today.
Yeah, no problem, Peter. It's always a pleasure, and thanks again for your ongoing support and invitation to the conference.
Fantastic. So I look forward to getting more detail on some of your recent news. And why don't we start with that? I believe it was in May you released the maiden resource on your La Virginia project, and that was actually quite exciting. Can you tell us a bit more about the resource and what that means for Silver VIPR?
Yeah, I mean, we were thrilled with the maiden resource. It certainly came in, with a bigger ounce number than we were probably expecting with our guidance. It was probably an ounce number that we thought possible, but anytime you're dealing with an independent and the various factors that come in, the resources always seem to come in lower than expected. But seeing it at 700,000 gold equivalent or 49 million silver equivalent, we were quite happy with. And then we were actually surprised that we had as much in at the indicative category as we did. Again, we thought it was possible, but we drilled it based on trying to bring everything in and inferred. But the independent felt that everything was holding together so well that it warranted having as much as it did and indicated, and so that was a great surprise. And then the grade, we targeted that maiden resource around the open pit component of the project primarily, especially at El Ruby. And to see that grade, coming in at kind of that gram to gram and a half gold equivalent type number for open pit heap leach mines, it's fantastic. I mean, that's well above the average mine that was making money at 12, or the average mine that was making money at 1,200 gold. It's one of the things that investors, I guess, need to wrap their head around, because they get, preach grade, 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 but you got to compare apples to apples, and it's got to be grade of an open pit heap leach mine to a grade of another open pit heap leach mine. So we're very happy with that maiden resource, but the other side of that is it's just a start. That's the open pit side, and we can grow that open pit, and that's what we'll be targeting doing this year. But we're also going to be targeting creating an underground resource in that El Ruby area, and starting to see some of those grades that relate to a lot of our assays that people see the high grade stuff in the El Ruby structure. So we're excited to bring that out probably at the same time next year.
Okay. The share price took a bit of a hit after the resource, and I mean, I'm assuming there are probably there's more than one reason for that. But my view, at least, we look at sort of maybe the technical aspect of it, is that maybe the market missed the fact that you were really looking at this as an open pit ultimately. Does that make sense to you? And do you think that that affected what happened to their share price? And just sort of want to throw in there that I guess if anyone's sort of following this closely enough, and they see this kind of activity, that at least in my view, it kind of created an opportunity.
Oh, it was definitely an opportunity. You're being nice. I have other reasons to think about, because it started well before the resource. It started on the back end of the best drill hole that we put out as a company. So I mean, I would take it a step further, and people knew that our cash position was going down and that we were going to be having to do financing, and so they took every single one of those news events to be a liquidity event and lean on the stock and get out shares, with the hope or thought that they would be able to come back in when we would do the placement on the back end of the resource and replace those shares. And so I fought tooth and nail to make sure I was finding out which funds were playing those games. And I think I identified a number of them, and I can assure all of our shareholders that none of those funds got in on the $6 million placement that we did on the back end of the financing. And then to your point, I mean, yeah, you saw the share price go down, and then you start marketing a financing, and the share price starts spiking straight upward. So it's all happening. You have great resource, great results, and you go down, and then you start marketing, a financing with dilution, and the share price starts streaming up. So again, I think that probably reconfirmed all the theories that it was being manipulated down, and that once the financing, and we saw the interest in that we had from both new funds and existing funds and some retail investors, that once that was out of the way and guys knew they either weren't getting a position or they were only going to get a starter position in a placement, that they started going aggressively into the market and buying stock, because they do believe in the story, and they saw that it's a very high quality resource. They've seen the potential for the high grade exploration results. And if people want exposure to precious metal stocks or specifically silver, there's not a lot of choices out there, and this is sitting right at the top of a lot of people's lists.
It looks like the way the share price played out ultimately was a reflection of the market. I guess better understanding everything and ultimately appreciating what the resource meant and what the implications were going forward from that. And in any case, the market is a weighing machine, and it looks like more level heads eventually prevailed, and it went where it deserved to go, and certainly has to be satisfying and encouraging.
Yes, I mean it's definitely nice to see it trending in the right direction, and I think even based on our resource, it's got a lot of room to go up in share price if you're being conservative and just taking that number. Never mind all of the exploration potential and what's coming. One of the new, or I shouldn't say new, one of the places that took a much larger position on this last financing, they've come in and they've gotten very excited about the deposit. They've really done a deep dive into the technicals, looking into our database and looking at all the pathfinder elements associated with our drilling, and that's Crescat and Quentin Hennig who does all their due diligence for them. And he's from his experience around the world has related it to a number of different mines that and from his time at Newmont, he said these were called gold carbonate base metal deposits, which we don't have carbonates yet and we don't really have base metals yet. But it's similar to these other deposits in that it's the idea of going and exploring and looking for that contact between our rhyolite package and the metasediment package below that. All of our exploration work, has predominantly been done in the andesites and just into the start of the rhyolite. So, moving forward, that's going to be one of our big models that we're going to be chasing. We're doing some geophysics that'll take all of August to complete. And then on the back end of that, we will probably be adding a rig that'll be designated for that deeper drilling at El Ruby and trying to target that contact. But that's a big, exciting event that we're all looking forward to. And if we can follow that El Ruby structure down to that contact, there certainly sounds, if you compare it to those other mines and you hit what they hit at that contact, we could be in for a really fun year. So we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Absolutely. So you've touched on going forward, doing more exploration. Can you maybe give us some detail on what this year's program looks like and what your goals are with that?
Yeah, I mean, our programs are always fluid. We're an exploration company, but our goal this year will at least be to do a minimum of 20,000 meters of drilling, probably more. Like I said, we're going to be adding a rig on the back end of that geophysics, at least one rig. And so, we did over 20,000 meters last year. I would expect to at least duplicate that again, if not do some more. We'll have one rig focused on that deep drilling. We're going to have another rig that'll be focused on continuing to expand Ruby and testing some of the various other anomalies on the project, trying to make a new discovery. And then obviously I say it's a fluid exploration program because if one of those makes a new discovery, then that's another point to ramp up production again and keep a rig, sitting the same way we did at El Ruby and defining a new discovery and stepping out 50 meters at a time systematically. So I think we're in for a really exciting year. Right now, the rig is focused on expanding Ruby South, and all of our drilling that we'll be doing is all expansion in nature. There's not going to be any infill drilling done. We're not focused on trying to convert, our inferred ounces into indicated and bringing those up. Everything we're wanting is to show size potential and continue to grow the deposit.
Super exciting stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about the topography of the land where you're exploring, and if that may be helpful, and why sort of going forward ultimately to develop this project?
Yeah, I mean, the bulk of the project, you're up in the mountains. It's very steep, but as we get to El Ruby, you're sitting on this plateau, and it's about a 2 kilometer by 2 kilometer flat plateau. Our deposit so far sits on the southern end and on top of the plateau. And from a topography standpoint, there's lots of advantages with that for open pit heap leach mining. The strip is less than if you're in a steep environment. And, the fact that our deposit comes off the southern end and it works its way down the arroyo, I mean, you're going to have, we'll see how deep it continues to go. But right now, you're going to have a very small pit wall on the southern side, which again, because you're right into the deposit there is great. You don't have to, lose ounces that, for safety reasons on a southern pit wall. And we'll probably lose part of the western pit wall as well on that southern end of the pit. So that's huge. Topography is definitely our friend there from a strip perspective, and yeah, we're that's a great start. But again, it's the start, and we'll be focusing on expanding that pit, but also putting in an underground resource in the El Ruby area and just trying to show the types of grades that you see in a lot of our assays.
So, Steve, we've only had the time to touch on a few points. It's almost literally the tip of the iceberg. Maybe it's the tip of the mountain, but what would you like to leave viewers with that we haven't touched on that may be helpful to better understand and follow the story going forward?
Well, I would certainly invite everyone to please reach out. I mean, we are always available. You can reach us via email or phone call. Those addresses and numbers are on our website. But just from a standpoint right now, I mean, I don't wait. If it's our company or if it's another company in the silver and gold space, I wouldn't wait. I mean, I think from my experience and looking at the fundamentals of gold and silver, that we're at a point right now in the market where I think gold and silver are about to break out. I know we've had a bit of a pullback this last week, but I think that has more to do with the upcoming Basel III rules and the implications that's going to have on our sector. And so I wouldn't wait till those rules kick in, because I think you're going to see gold and silver pop. And, if whichever company it is or multiple companies, I would suggest that people, get involved now, do your due diligence, but get involved now with the few silver and gold names that you want to pick, and be there and be positioned for when the metals prices really start to run. And I think we are still at the very start of a bull market. These typically in the gold and silver space can last, 8 to 10 years. And, there's a lot of wealth that can be made when you get into one of these cycles. So that's how I would leave it, is that don't wait. Don't sit on the sideline. If you've got, money to invest right now, pick your favorite gold and silver companies. I think Silver VIPR should be at the top of that list, but, everyone's got their own opinions of what they're looking for. But yeah, don't wait.
Sounds like some good advice. I would certainly agree with, at least on some level, participating in this market. I would agree that it's relatively early, but it can certainly take off, at any moment, and could surprise also a lot of people on the upside. And you definitely want to be a participant, if for no other reason, even if it's on a sort of a small scale, to keep you focused on some level in that sector. I think it's crucial to portfolios today.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much, Steve. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Peter. Always a pleasure.